Our story. Part 16, the right building at the wrong time. We were in the shopping center for about 2 years. It had been a sweet season. God had used that storefront church in a powerful way. People were coming. Lives were changing. Families were growing. The word of God was going out. And we were doing our best to make room for what Jesus was doing. But we knew the shopping center was not going to last forever. The owner had been very kind to us. He had rented us one space and allowed us to use the other empty spaces for children's ministry until they were rented. That had been a huge blessing. But we also knew it could not last forever. At some point, those spaces would rent. And when they did, we would lose the rooms we were using for the children. We could not keep building the church on borrowed space that might disappear at any time. So we started looking again. This time we were not just looking for another place to rent. We were hoping to find something we could buy. Before long, we found what seemed like the perfect building. It had originally been built as a church. A Lutheran church had used it for a while, and then another group had moved in. That group was more involved in mysticism and did not really believe the Bible or believe in Jesus the way we did. They were looking for another place, and because they heard we were looking for a building, they contacted us. They asked if we would be interested in buying theirs, so we went to look at it. Almost right away, we could see the possibilities. It looked like it could work. It was not going to be big enough forever, but it could be ours. After all the setting up, tearing down, renting, borrowing space, and moving things back and forth, the thought of having our own building was exciting. So we made an offer, and then, for some reason, it fell through. I was discouraged. I remember thinking, Lord, I thought you were giving us this building. I thought you were guiding us this way. What are you doing? At the time, I did not understand, but later I would. Around that same season, we were beginning to have some conflict in the church. I was still a young pastor. I was learning how to shepherd people. I was learning how to love people, how to lead people, how to correct without crushing, and how to point people toward the Lord without letting my own immaturity get in the way. And I did not always do that well. There were times I was harsher than I should have been. There were decisions I made that I would not make the same way today. There were people who left the church. There were people who were angry with me. And if I am going to tell this story honestly, I have to say this plainly. Some of that was on me. I still had a lot of growing to do. The encouraging part is that as the years went by, many of those relationships were healed. Apologies were made. Conversations happened. Reconciliation took place. Not always quickly, and not always easily, but God was gracious. There were other moments over the years when we had disagreements in the church, and later I will talk more about some of the lessons I learned, including some apologies I had to make. But in that season, we were walking through one of our first real times of conflict. And now, looking back, I believe that is why God said no to the building. Not no forever, just no for now. Almost exactly 1 year later, after that difficult season had settled down and things had begun to heal, the door opened again. The same building became available. And this time God said yes. Not only that, but during the time we had waited, the building had received a brand new roof, and some important upkeep had been done for the same price. That was a huge blessing. What had felt like a closed door had actually been the Lord's timing. He had not forgotten us. He had not misled us. He was waiting. So here we were, packing up again. Only this time, we were not moving into another rented room. We were moving into our own building. We knew right from the beginning that it would not be big enough forever. The church was still growing, and we could already see that one day we would need more space. But for that season, it was ours, and we were excited. Before we officially moved in, I went over to the building several times to look things over and begin getting ready. But as I walked through it, I began to sense something strange. There was a heaviness there, a weird feeling. I do not know how else to say it. So I began to pray as I walked through the building. I went room by room, asking the Lord for wisdom. And then I saw something that shocked me. It was not a problem with the roof. It was not a problem with the walls. It was not something physical in the building. It was something spiritual. And before we moved into that building, we were going to have to deal with it.